this is our first podcast from the vision that I had a while back and got it to this point with just, going down rabbit holes, ordering something, and then the next thing you know, I got to order this. So this really came out to be an amazing thing that you guys sitting in these chairs really solidifies like all the work that went into and the vision that went into this. So I appreciate this. This is like, a big moment for me, for the podcast. I don't know what it's going to be what road that goes down. We'll see. But everything that we've learned, even with Tom Ferry, connecting that, search engine.
Anywhere and everywhere.
Right? Exactly.
And I think as you go on, it's just going to happen organically. Like, you're
Yeah.
going to start stepping into other
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and then that's going to happen. But you're doing awesome.
I appreciate it.
I love
Yeah.
it. I'm honored that
Yeah.
we're here
So
cool.
with your
Yeah.
guests.
So before we get into anything, if you can, just introduce yourself, your name, how many years you've been in this industry, I think would be first and foremost.
Sure. Frank DiTommaso.
Yeah.
I'm in the business 38 years.
Yeah.
Broker of DiTommaso Real Estate.
Awesome. Katherine?
My name is Katherine Charavino. I am a salesperson with DiTommaso Real Estate. I'm super excited and proud to be part of DiTommaso. So,
Awesome.
Agreed.
and I've been part of this and in this industry for about 6 years, almost 7.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's flying. It goes quick.
It does go so fast.
So
I'm
fast.
about the same amount of time. Lori Ficara, Lori Hester Hagen Ficara. Proud of both of my names. We
there
go
you
through
go.
this. That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right. And I work at DiTommaso Real Estate. I am a salesperson there and proud of it. We all love working with Frank DiTommaso.
And I'm very proud to work with both of you.
Thank you.
Joe, you made a great pick today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two wonderful, not just wonderful agents,
Yeah.
but wonderful people.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Frank.
Great
Of
people.
course.
The things that they do, and I hope you get into a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Because I think the public needs to know what Katherine and Lori do, which goes above and beyond just real estate.
Right.
It involves their personal lives and everything that they do outside of the business, and it's quite special.
Yeah, absolutely. So I picked this panel, to be on. One, because I'm comfortable and as close as possible with people within the industry. Is business, but then they become friends. You know what I mean? So for my first podcast, I'm like, I want my friends here. You know what I mean? But I also did where I felt each and every one of you are in different stages of this real estate world that we work in and live in. And I wanted to just have a different view from somebody that's got 38 years of experience, or someone with 6 or 7 years of experience, or somebody that's been doing this for 6, 7 years, but hey, I'm a top producer just the same. And I wanted to see the different point of views and what those struggles may be, or what the similarities are, and what separates you from everyone else in the industry. So market-wise, I think we should start there. I think this market, for what we've been in for the last, and I've been heavy on the purchase side for 12 to 13 years, right? So 20 years in this industry. Started in title, didn't even know what title was in the refi boom, and walked around and just was like, hey, we do title. 3-piece suit, $100 suits. I had a metal suitcase. I really, Aldo shoes, I'll always say it. I would go through those like every 3 to 6 months.
Seems like that's how you do. Go big or go home.
Yeah,
That's
go
that's
big or
Joe.
go
That's
home.
Joe.
That
That's
was
Joe. And
it.
everything he does, if it's title,
That was
if
it.
it's mortgages,
Right.
it's podcasts.
That's right.
That's right.
And I had the original, I know I don't have any hair. That goes towards
makes
this
two of us,
industry.
Joe.
I hear you, Frank. But I had the original Jersey Shore. You'd spike it
Oh,
out.
my goodness.
The glue that would hold
Can we
it
get
out.
a picture of
I was
that?
just going to say, I think
There's
a
pictures out
picture
there.
should
Gotta
be
put that in
flashed up
this.
on the screen
There are
right
definitely
about
pictures.
now.
We need that picture, please.
We definitely have some out there. My daughter's like, who is this?
You're like, that's the man your mother fell in love with.
That's right. I was like, that was Miami, 1999, but all good. But I think in this market really has taken, for me, it definitely, it took a little wind out of my sails, so to speak, or you kind of get, how I think Tyson said it best. He's like, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I got punched in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think we all got punched in the face
Right.
from last year to this year.
Correct.
Humbles everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think in this market, I'd love to hear, because, you always got a wealth of knowledge, but, and you keep up with the times of just on a real estate side, like the market and where we're at, what are the the things that are most concerning, I think, in the real estate world.
Well, let me say this. If you think this market is a tough market, this is nothing compared to 2005, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
That was a crash. That was like a depression.
Yeah.
Like so many people I know back then filed bankruptcy, went out of business, folded up their businesses. I don't know what they went to, but they found something else.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we can only work so hard, but you're in a business. You're in a business that's dependent on the economy. Yeah. You know, our hands are tied sometimes. You can only do so much.
Control what you can control.
So here's what's going to happen. This is my prediction later on this year. It doesn't matter what rates do. It doesn't matter what. Obviously, we know we're dealing with a lack of supply, and we talk about that a lot of times with inventory. I think you're going to see two types of real estate professionals. You're going to see the first kind that doesn't adapt to the change. And there's a lot of changes coming at us and hitting us left and right.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see, and those people are going to have a real difficult time. They have to make a decision whether to stay in the business, learn, and adjust what they're doing and move forward, or they're going to be out. That's it. They're going to have to go work at McDonald's or pick another occupation or whatever else they're going to do. Then you got the other type that's going to adjust. They're going to dig in. They're going to dig their heels in, and they're going to say, all right, bring it on. What do I have to learn? Yeah. And those are the people that are going to get through it, because these type of down markets, they don't last forever. It's always about working through it, and as you work through it, you become more professional, you learn more, and then when the times change, you go into an upswing.
You're that much better.
Now all of a sudden, bam, you're slamming it. Now you're doing great. And that's the market that we saw a few years ago for those who started a few years before that.
Yeah.
Now that it's adjusting, you know, everybody's like, oh, yeah, when times are good,
Yeah, they're
it's
good.
wonderful, right? I mean, listen, we're not going to argue with that.
Deals
But
falling in your lap.
when times aren't so good, you have a decision to make. And it'll be interesting to see what happens later on this year with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
totally.
appreciate that.
And I think it's so important to recognize the people that have been in this industry for so long and have adapted to all of these different waves and times, right? They've had to learn how to navigate, you know, technology and different ways, all the market highs and lows, and it's truly commendable. So I feel like I learned so much from the people who have been in the industry for so long, and there's something to really say about it. So I definitely, being in it 6 years, right?
Yeah.
I consider myself wet behind the ears.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I'm always learning every day. I'm eager to learn every day. And when I talk to these individuals who have been in this industry for so long, I try and take something from each of them because I think it's really special, and there's something to be said about it. It's nice.
I agree.
It's really
I agree.
nice.
There's always a mentor, I feel like, you know, and you know, I've said it on you know, in a lot of my videos or just in public, that Brandon and James were always mentors in this industry and have really just kind of propelled me and given me a platform, and I've learned off of that. And then at a certain point, you kind of you release the reins, you know what I mean? And you know, all of a sudden, I have new guys coming in, and I'm like, hey, I'm the seasoned guy here.
Now you're the
How did we
mentor.
get here?
That
You know?
happened.
But it's more of you have to be able to adapt. And in this industry, there's a passion for it. I enjoy it. I love the daily hustle, the contracts coming in, things go south, putting them back on,
Yeah.
clear the closes, ring. You know, it's music to your ears. But there's also like, hey, we make good money, and we could supply for our family. And so when things are cyclical or they continuously go up and down, you have to adapt. What's my alternative?
Right.
I can get out. Why?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this
You
has
give your-
always been a good industry for me, and it's just a matter of trying to, you know, maybe what was the norm before is no longer the norm. So you kind of need to pivot off.
And you know what? The ups are great, right? We all enjoy those ups because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the ups.
Yeah.
But the downs, I think you really see what you're made of, who you are. It forces you to make changes that don't always make you comfortable, and then it helps you when it gets back up again. You're that much better.
Yeah.
So you have to take advantage of those down times.
I was just going to, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to
yeah.
say something very similar
Look, this
to
is
that.
a similar situation. This is a little bit of a downtime for a lot of people in the mortgage industry. And instead of laying
Yeah.
down and crying, U-turns this.
Right.
But it's the truth, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember too, during COVID, I you're devastated, right? We couldn't work. I was like, I'm going to get my Jersey license. Boom.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the kind of stuff that I think you have to do instead of,
Here's another thing to your point, Lori. Like you said, it's all fun and games. It's easy. When things are good.
Yeah.
When things aren't so good, and people are put to the test. But think about it. As the years go by, right? So you're in the business 6 years. You're in the business 5 years. Once you're in the business a certain amount of years, doesn't have to be too long, but the investment that you make is in here, is in your brain, and you've digested and absorbed and learned so much over the years that what are you going to do? You're going to abandon that and start up something else? A lot of people are under the misconception that, well, the real estate business is really tough. I'll try something else. You know what? It's being in business. Every
Everything's
industry,
tough.
everything is tough. So you know what? You jump ship, you go to do something else, and that's going to be easy? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Everything gets affected.
And what
right?
deserves your energy? What deserves your energy? Is it something that you're passionate about, or is it something to just get by? And then if you find yourself doing that, then you're losing the traction. You're losing the to do anything. And then you're always going to be chasing your tail, finding the next thing to satisfy. So if you're giving your energy to something that you're passionate about, that's when you grow. And
Yeah.
so.
Well, one of the things we always say is that so many people think that becoming a realtor, oh, it's easy.
Yeah.
I didn't know when I started, and then I was like, oh, God, this is hard.
Oh, it
And
looks
as
so glamorous on the
Exactly.
outside.
Yeah.
And as soon as I really started getting deals put together, I went to every seasoned agent in our office, and I was like, I tip my hat to you because this is hard.
Yeah.
In every way, not just, everything. Emotionally, it's draining. It's just it's crazy, and then you work so hard on things and they fall apart. People only see the stuff that
You know what kills
works
me?
out.
Yeah.
When you
That's
see
stuff
on
that falls
social
apart.
media, an agent takes a fresh new deal and puts a post, deal accepted. I'm like,
Don't do
oh,
it. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, no,
You
no,
just
no,
killed
no.
your deal.
That's
Right.
right. I agree with you.
Why put it out there?
Yeah.
Never. A lot of people
even when
do.
it goes to contract, sometimes I have my reservations.
Yeah.
But when it closes, go
I
all out.
never,
right.
ever. Only
true.
one time I did because it was out of this world. I think it was a house that I had listed down by the Verrazano Bridge, and I had a tremendous response there, well over asking the house went for in 2 days, crazy amount of showings. Said, this is when everybody was thinking the market was really going down, and I had this crazy, experience. So I'm like, I'm putting this out there. And you know what? It was great because I think a lot of other agents were like, oh my God, that's awesome. And a lot of people that were thinking about selling or buying, this was interesting. So I felt that it was necessary to do it then. But other than that, I agree with you, Frank. I'm always like,
Yeah.
maybe superstitious.
It's
I don't know
almost
what
like
it
you
is.
put a jinx on your deal.
I agree.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know what? Why do we do it? I'd like to say it's not for bragging rights.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it's like,
Remember
I just
me.
Yeah.
put a
You
deal
know what I
on
mean?
something, I can do the same for you.
Correct.
Okay, so we do market, and I believe in that, and that's what we do.
Right.
But that's like, you're almost attacking yourself when you do that.
You're putting
you
it
see
out
so
there.
many deals fall
Yeah, yeah,
apart
yeah.
as soon as people do that.
Yeah.
In
that-
any market,
that
even
was-
if the market's good, it doesn't matter.
That was a big thing in this market where at one point, if you had an acceptance a few years back, it's like, all right, I pretty much had it. You know what I mean? It went into contract and things like that. It was more relevant, especially now in this day and age, where it's like, I got an acceptance. I'm like, okay, great. All right, let the inspection happen.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, because it was a 50-50 shot that by the time it didn't even make it to the attorneys. And they're like, no, they backed out. So something happened. So putting that into existence is just not, that's bad juju,
Agreed. I'm always
Agreed.
in panic mode. I think that's part of what keeps me going. I'm always worried. Like, this is my last deal ever. This is it. This is
Oh,
it. And
gosh,
somebody,
yeah,
right? And
right.
but I think that's what I
That's
feed
what
off
keeps you
of.
motivated.
That's right. So I had said somebody say to me once, they were like, "What do you mean you're worried? You just took all these listings." I go, "That means nothing.
Yeah.
I got to get them sold.
See,
I
now
got to
you
get
know
them
what?
under contract."
I have to say something to that. Lori gets it.
Yeah.
Katherine gets it. We understand that mentality. You know what happens over the years? You're like, okay, I put a deal together. Okay, I lost the deal.
Right.
Okay, put another deal together. You're even keeled.
Yeah.
You don't get too high. You don't
No.
get too low. You just go straight through it because you're conditioned to know that anything can happen at any time.
White noise. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to get on, I think, the business development side of how, and it's funny how you said, like, everyone sees basically the finished product, but doesn't understand truly what it takes to be a successful real estate agent. And so on the business development side, I'd like to hear from both of you of things that have worked for you and maybe not have worked for you. And so, like, how do you look to generate business or stay relevant in a community that all of a sudden when a buyer is like, or a seller is like, I'm going to sell my house, I got to call Catherine, or I have to buy, let me call Lori. Because they don't call me. They don't go to the bank. They go to the rainmakers, and it's always been that way. I'm still trying to figure out how to flip the script because then all of a sudden I got the golden ticket. I get the golden ticket. I get these buyers coming to me. It's game over.
He's going to be interviewing all these agents,
Right.
and you really have it. I know what this is all about
Yeah.
now. Nothing's doing
Just
podcast.
remember that we were your first podcast.
That's right.
He's sitting here taking notes. He's like, I got to figure all this out. I'm going to interview them, and
Yeah.
I'm going to use it, and I'm going to,
No, yes.
That's So what works is what works.
Yeah. So I was just curious if you can, like, is there anything that you know off the top of your head, you'd be like, this is truly working for me, or this is what I put my best foot forward in, and I think that that's what's going to give me the better shot than most people.
So I think that for me, some things work sometimes, and they don't always work all the times.
said it.
I for a little while there, I was buying leads. Well, when I first got my real estate license, I got it a little later in the game. A lot of people didn't know I was a realtor, so I was advertising a lot. I was, putting my posters up and putting up billboards and all that kind of stuff. And then it got to the point where everybody's like, I see your face everywhere. And I'm like, you're saying, like, that's a bad thing.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
wanted. That was
Right.
the goal. That was
Right.
the goal. Just because I didn't want to meet somebody and they say, I just sold my house. No way, I didn't know you were a realtor. That would have broke my heart. So I said, you know what, I want to get myself out there. And then I was doing Zillow leads. And I did great. I did great with Zillow leads until I didn't.
Yeah.
And then they were gone. And so I feel like, the Zillow leads were getting harder to turn over. And I just think it's a little bit, for me, a little bit of everything, because not everything doesn't come from one source.
Yeah.
Ever. But sometimes things work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I guess it all depends.
So the Zillow leads were always something that an agent at a certain point of being in this industry would be like, hey, do you do this? And what they meant by that, for me, it was, hey, do you co-brand yourself? And then we basically are splitting that monthly fee. And so it was my shot in the door for a lot of people. But I tried to always stress anytime that I did do that it wasn't just necessarily like, these leads, they didn't work out. Well, wait a second.
Can't be.
There were other leads that maybe you had gotten that, you could have possibly have moved over or introduced me to.
Sometimes it doesn't work out for the realtor, but we could pass it along to you.
Correct.
And that's why I feel like you always have to
Yeah.
team up with somebody that you trust that will do that for you and turn over those leads
Yeah.
because they're hard. You got to work at them.
Yeah, and so the misconception I found out with a lot of agents, because they'd see someone maybe be successful at it, didn't truly understand what it takes for a lead like that. And a lead like that has a lot to do with, it's almost a call center mentality. And it's, every second matters, and it's multiple touches. And it's then, what are you doing on the back end that's, going into maybe their CRM, and so that it's being touched again. So it's a matter of making sure. It's not like, hey, I made 1 or 2 calls and it's over. And that was the misconception.
Joe, the money in this business is all made in the follow-up.
Yeah.
That's right.
And following up is a tedious thing to do.
Yeah.
And not everybody is good at it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have too many distractions in their lives. They don't want to follow up. They get caught up trying to do something new.
Yeah.
Rather than focusing on what you already have.
Yeah.
They let lose sight of that. But following up, you can get an email or a name, and you could say, I don't trust that that's a good lead.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, how do you know?
Yeah.
That's right.
It could be something so obscure, but meanwhile, it could be a great lead.
Yeah.
But maybe, it takes 7 or 8 times of trying to connect with that person until you finally do.
Sure.
And then once you do, now you got something to work on and convert.
Yeah.
People don't give themselves the chance to get to that point.
Yeah. And it's funny you also saying like postcards, right? So postcards, I thought was just a dead industry until We went to our Tom Ferry event, right? And it's the first. I only bring it up because it's the first time I ever walked in there, and they were like, "Hey, you guys pushed me to it to say this is probably in the same type
Yeah,
of,
it's just
of
not
realm,
for
you know?"
realtors. Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
you seen our newest
Absolutely.
postcards with the QR codes and the story behind it and everything that we're doing? Have
Oh,
you seen the new
no,
ones?
not yet, not
They're
yet.
Awesome. Oh, you got to see them because
Okay.
the postcard. Okay, if you guys notice the same thing that I do, I think you'll agree.
Yeah,
Postcards on Staten Island is a huge thing.
yeah.
But the problem with the postcards is that too many agents. I shouldn't even say this. I'm giving away our secrets.
I know.
But I'm not going to say too much here.
That's
But I
it.
think the biggest problem is
Yeah.
that agents send out postcards, thousands and thousands of postcards, but there's no lead capture system to it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I just sold this house around the corner from you for $20,000. The story sounds great.
Sure.
But then the finish is, call me if you'd like to,
Yeah.
free market
Yeah.
analysis.
It dies there.
It goes right in the garbage.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no lead capture to it. Like, who cares? They're getting 100 of those a month.
Yeah.
So what makes that postcard special? That's why I'm glad you came with
Yeah,
us.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You learned something pretty
Isn't
cool.
it funny? You could go, you could sit there. Everybody hears the same stuff.
Yeah.
But you take away just a couple of things, and everybody takes away
Yeah.
different
Yeah, absolutely.
stuff,
Yeah.
and you make it work.
So it's more of, it flipped. So it used to be everyone does give postcards, and it probably still do. But everyone now's, their junk emails are just so inundated, and that's
Right.
what they were saying, of like, it's kind of like the postcards is really going back to that. You have a better chance than someone reading your junk email that's just like click, 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 click it away.
Keep in mind this one thing. Postcards, if they're done right,
Yeah.
super effective marketing strategy.
Yeah.
But it's only one lead source.
Yes.
To make six figures or more in this business,
Gotta do
you
multiple
have to have
things.
at least 5 to 10 lead sources.
Absolutely.
You know, it could be open houses. It could be, I'm talking, what we do in the trade. But open houses. It could be cold calling.
Yeah.
It could be door knocking. Whatever it is, but it's got to be a multitude of those things.
Which
working
supports-
in the CRM.
Yeah.
What you said.
Yeah.
There's
that's
no
what,
one
yeah,
thing.
Absolutely not. Because at different times of year, to me, I wouldn't mail postcards in December.
Right.
People are totally overwhelmed with mail and Christmas cards and
Yeah.
stuff all over their house. Nobody's looking at that, to me, my own opinion. So in the month of December, I'm not going to not do anything if I'm only doing postcards, right?
Yeah.
So I think different times of year, different,
If I might,
Mm-hmm.
you should let Katherine and Lori talk about their niches and what they do
Yeah, of
for their
course.
marketing.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this might be the time to get into
Yeah,
that. That's
and
great.
Definitely leading into that. So, you want to open yourself up
No, so-
to just what are you doing differently in your own markets, in your own community, that you're trying to develop and brand yourself and have your phone ring at the end of the day.
So I think that Lori would agree that it started off not for business, right? It generates business, but it being involved in community events and charitable work
Yeah.
is something that I've always tried to do. Even as a young girl, I wanted to be in the forefront of things that were important in our community because it was personally fulfilling for me. I always tried to stay involved in things or be involved in different events within my community that were important to other people because it in turn was important to me. If I felt like I was helping and I was making a difference of some kind, I was fulfilling my purpose. And other people that needed something that I could potentially help in any way, I wanted to be on the, in the front lines of that. So by doing charity work or community events, just lending a helping hand, whether it be garbage cleanup when I was younger or I just had an event last week for teens with autism, and it was my second teen night, and it was truly beautiful. If somebody's not involved to this capacity, do you agree that they should totally be involved in some way, and they should connect with different people, and it makes you feel so good. So by doing that, I have made connections in different neighborhoods, and it has generated business, but it didn't start off that way.
but it happens organically.
It happens
Catherine, because,
organically.
like you said, so I think it has to be genuine.
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot of people that do things, and I'm like,
Yeah.
a little sus. I don't know if you're doing that for the right reasons. And I always, like you, my entire life, I've always given back. It's a very big part of my life, always has been. My kids grew up. Christmas was about people that needed. more than about us. What we needed on Christmas Day. My kids will probably be in therapy for all of these things, but
Your children are
Thanksgiving
incredible.
was about, well, I truly think that they are. And every now and then, they used to complain, how come on Thanksgiving we can't lay around and watch the Thanksgiving Day parade? And I'm like, because we could do that.
Yeah.
We'll tape it and we can
Yeah.
watch that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But today we're going to go out and we're going to feed the people that need Thanksgiving dinner.
Your
you
son,
know?
you.
your son told me the whole yesterday. He was like, so we do Thanksgiving and we go. He goes, me, Lori, and
He
the
calls
family.
me Lori.
He calls you Lori, and then you guys were going to Catholic charities, right?
That's right.
Right, and then he would then tell me and say, and then we get stuck in traffic, because this is something that we needed to do. So we get stuck in traffic, but it was all worth it,
So it's so
He's
funny because
brutally honest.
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
brutally honest, but I always, even with like the dog fostering and all the things that I know add a level of crazy. Like my husband came home on his break today and he's sitting there and he's unwrapping all of the flags. I don't even know, 180, whatever, how many flags we have that are going down Highland Boulevard. So
That started in a Facebook chat.
I couldn't take
Right?
everybody complaining about it anymore. They're like, oh my gosh, all the flags are tattered. Who's going to do something about it? And I'm like, so somebody do something
Yeah,
about it.
somebody
And then
do
finally,
something.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the funniest thing is,
That's it.
I'm like, I got this, well, go ahead and I'll do it. I go and volunteer myself. And then
You
I
don't
had
know
a
there was
personal,
chatter in the background. Give it to Lori.
Yeah.
Lori will
no,
do it.
Frank, it was literally like a year that people were complaining about it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, just do it. So then I volunteer myself. And then I had a personal situation in my family. My dad had gotten very sick. And I jumped on, and a good friend of mine, Jim, jumped in, and he totally saved my butt because I went and volunteered. And then he picked up the pieces for me and collected the money and everything. And now I'm back on track, and we're doing it. But yeah, so my husband comes home on his break today, and what is he doing? He's taking the plastic off all the flags, assembling them so they could all be hung up this weekend. So I could sit here and say, I do this and I do that, but I don't. I delegate. My
Yeah.
kids and my husband, they
Yes.
help me so much with everything. I will say for sure that for a while there, I always wondered, do I do too much? Do I have my kids do too much? Until I'll hear them every once in a while. I know they're very proud. I know
Yeah.
they're proud of the work that they do, that we do, and the important stuff like Thanksgiving. We could have Thanksgiving every day of the week.
Yep.
We have a beautiful family. We have extended family. I'm lucky I don't even have to cook that day. We go to my, my family, my sister-in-laws, whatever, and we still have a beautiful holiday, but we can sacrifice a couple of hours. Not even sacrifice. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about to me. And my
I
kids
got to
love
jump
it.
in
Yeah.
here because as I'm listening to both of you speak, I have to jump in here and say, two amazing women.
Yeah,
I mean, what they do
absolutely.
is incredible. And here's what I'm thinking as I'm hearing all this. All right, because obviously we all know each other and we know what everybody does, right?
Yeah.
But I think that in this business, I mean, I'm sure in the business world, but speaking about our business particularly, I think everybody has a superpower. It might sound a little corny,
Yeah.
but I think everybody has their own superpower, and that superpower has to come out.
Yeah.
Because we could talk about lead sources all day. We're doing postcards. We're making cold calls and this and that. But there's so much more in business, in life, than just that.
Yeah.
And by default, doing what you do, which is truly a love for what you do, is exposure in itself.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're putting business ahead. You're really not, because this is something that
Well,
you
no
would be doing
business came
anyway.
after to me.
Yeah.
Correct.
This is stuff I've
Right.
done my whole life, and then I realized only because my coach brought it to my attention. He was like, "Girl, you do all this and you don't tell anybody." And
Yeah.
I say it all the time. You don't do things because you want to be recognized. You do things because you want to do them because you want to do them and it's the right thing.
Because that's you,
And
and it
he
was you
said to me,
before.
he goes, absolutely not. The business that you're in, you could get more people, because I looked at it differently, and then he rerouted me and he redirected me, and he said, you could get more people to help you help other people if you broadcast what you do. I had done something for like 25 years and people didn't even know I did it.
Yeah.
And they were like, why didn't you tell us? I said, why would I? If you wanted to be a part of it, you show up and you do it because you want to do it, not because you're doing it for me, So I was always a big believer in that. And then I felt uncomfortable to put it out there that I did these things. And now I love that I did. And he pushed me to be uncomfortable and do that because I can help so many more people. Being a real estate salesperson has helped me help people in every way. And I know we talked about this once in our interview when you interviewed me a year or two ago, that I feel I can get people furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People that are selling their houses or giving away household items. I know I work with so many families that are in need. It's come full circle for me. It really has. So all of the stuff that I have always done, I finally figured out how to do that, make money for my family, have a career that I love, and everything came full circle.
So here's the point here to be made. We all have worries and concerns about if we put out our hobbies and our interests, what other people are going to think? How are they going to judge us?
Doesn't matter.
But the truth of the matter is, why
They're not your people.
Like, I love cars.
Yeah.
I do car shows every year. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And when it comes time to do a car show announcement or whatever, I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, we're going to do a car show on New Dorp Lane, Casa Belvedere or whatever. I'm part of a car club. But I just, I love the guys, a lot of them, and we're all friends.
Sure.
We have a similar interest. So maybe there aren't people that like cars, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They're not going to dislike me for it. So what's there to really worry about?
Right.
If you love to do these special charities with children, autistic children, whatever, and you love children, we all love children. We all have children, right?
Yeah.
And this is what we're involved in. And why would somebody, not view that as a positive thing? What you do and what you do, Lori, with the dogs, and what we all do. It's something that it's part of our lives.
Yeah.
Frank,
it's what we
my,
enjoy.
My coach had said something to me. I remembered at one point with the dogs, a very big passion of mine, always has been my whole life. I remember my mom said to me, she goes, that video was great, sweetheart, but not everybody loves dogs. And I told my coach, I'm like, what do you think of that? She's probably right. I don't know. Did I make a mistake?
Right.
And he goes, what do you care?
Yeah.
They're not your people.
Right.
Not everybody loves dogs. Not everybody's going to love you. That's okay. Do what you love. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm
But-
going to do that. And I love it.
And you know what? When you do
And
what
I
you love, it makes it easier.
Doesn't matter. I don't
agree.
care. I don't care. I know I'm doing something I love and a good thing, and it works for me. So it's funny. So like I said before about the Zillow leads and stuff, and I was paying so much money to get them, and they were so much work and they were so hard to work. I now am taking that money and putting it towards helping others, which I've always done anyway. But I'm putting it towards other things like, I pay somebody to help me do videos to help dogs find homes,
Yeah.
right? So I'm doing things like that. People are watching my videos, which my family laughs at me about. They're like, yeah,
Of
that
course.
came out. You're
They
a big
have to.
deal. Yeah. But I am now getting people calling me to list their house, and I notice they're not even really interviewing me.
Right.
I know I'm not up against other agents. They just decided they liked me from my social media, and I have no idea who they are. And that's, I think, what my end goal was. And I might have even told you, or I might have mentioned it to Frank 2 years ago. I was like, this is my goal. I'm just going to keep being me, keep doing good things, and I want it just to happen organically instead of me working those Zillow leads. Please like me. Please call me back. Please,
Yeah.
please.
Right.
I don't want to do that anymore.
And they're very costly.
Yeah.
And they're very
And most
costly.
of the time,
I
they
would-
get routed to so many
Yeah.
other people,
Yeah.
they don't even pan
Well,
out.
I think
out.
it was Super Bowl Sunday about a year or two ago. Remember I cried the whole
Yeah,
way
I
home? I think
remember.
I cried. Joe answered the phone, and
Yeah.
I left my family at breakfast. And, this is the stuff that people don't see, right? I got up from the breakfast table, and I jump in the car, I get dressed, and I run down there, and I meet this person, and they're there with their other agent.
Yeah.
After I set up a whole day
Oh,
of
yeah.
appointments, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I don't want to say I'm too good for this, but I work too hard for this.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I just can't. I know it's a part of the business, but I want to try and not make that
Value
a
your
part of my
time.
business and
Absolutely.
value my time. I'll do anything for anybody.
Right.
But I said, I cried literally the whole length of Highland Boulevard from the Verrazano Bridge on the phone with Joe, and I said I'm not doing it anymore. I'm canceling the Zillow. I'm done. And I said I got to figure something else out. And that's when I think it all kind of
Yeah.
happens at the same time. And I remember the first time I did the dog video, Frank was like,
I was
No, he
I
loved
was the
it.
one that
He loved
said,
it.
you got to
No,
keep
but
doing
he
it.
looked at it. He goes, I'm curious to see how like the responses are going to be too. He goes, I love it,
Yeah.
but I am curious
Yeah,
to see.
yeah.
And boom,
But you want to
right
know
away.
something? You know, sometimes when you have a hunch,
Yeah.
He had the hunch. He
I
did.
said, this is going to be a big thing for Lori. Why not? Like, I don't know anybody that doesn't like dogs.
Yeah.
Well,
If
again,
you-
they're
if
not our
there is
people if
somebody,
they don't.
tell me,
Back
because
with
I
them.
haven't met.
Back with them.
Listen, people might not have a dog, but that doesn't mean they don't like
Right.
them.
Yeah.
And I say, and I'm watching Lori. I'm like, what a natural that is.
Yeah, of
How do
course.
you not just do what you love?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like what I was saying before. Everybody has something in their lives that they're passionate about. Why not let people know that side of you? It's,
Yep.
it's not a bad thing. It
Well, you know
works.
what I've noticed? What honestly, after going through everything, and when you said you were like, I'm very curious to see how people we knew it was good, but how do other people perceive it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm good.
Yeah.
I like being me.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
Well, when
Almost
you-
50 years
it's
old.
a
I
lot
like
easier
me.
being you
It's
than it
that,
is
right?
somebody else.
Right.
This is the beauty of what we do. I can't be Lori. She can't be Catherine. You can't be me. I can't be her. You know, we're all individual. We
Yeah.
all do our own thing. It's what we create in our career that's unique to us.
That's right.
And when you go with that and you just strengthen on everything that you're good at, that you're familiar with, you look at your positives and you say, how can I embellish on them?
Yeah.
Right? And you just keep doing that.
Yep.
That's your thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I meant before when I said that's your superpower.
When I first came into the industry, it was a lot of events. I always say it was burning the midnight oil. You were coming in early, you were staying out late, and you were constantly just going. And at this point, when this whole shift happened, and at my age of 48, and I'm like, I don't want to do what I used to do to get business. So reinventing myself, but it was reinventing myself to say, I'm okay with being me.
Yeah.
And whatever the naysayers say, I don't care. Building this was like, I'm Noah and I was building an ark. Legitimately, like people going, what are you doing? Or just the videos or the podcast, whatever it may be, it's who I am. I want it to be my authentic self so that I can generate business, but be at
But you're
peace within my own.
attracting your people.
And
Yes.
you're doing a great job at
And
it, I have
yeah,
to say. In all
honestly.
fairness,
So
right?
cool.
Isn't he doing a great job?
I
Such a
said
good
it as
job.
soon as I came in. I'm like, and I love this side of Joe.
Me too.
I do.
I love it,
I
and
like it.
I
Well,
love
sometimes
the
you're
studio.
serious,
This
Joe.
place- this
I
is
like the laughing,
fantastic.
Joe. I
Yeah.
like it.
On a family aspect, right? Because in this industry, it's completely different than how I grew up. I grew up, my father got up at 4:30 in the morning, went to work, Pepsi Cola, had his truck route, World Trade Center route, and then later on it was in Staten Island. My mom stayed home, oldest out of 4. So I never, and my mom would always say, like, you're always crying for your dad at the window. It was overtime, always working, you know, and I'm not taking away from that. But I get up, I make sure my kids have breakfast, make sure that they go to school. It's different, and it's a different way. I actually it messes with me because I'm like, I'm not that hard labor. Like it's not what I do, and more of I can work later in the afternoon, evenings. I work more through my phone, and it's a lot. Obviously, it's a lot more mobile, right? But I was curious on your end, like, you know, family dynamics in each of your lives. I'm curious how that is because, you know, my daughters have been, I've been as present as I possibly can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it's the weekends, whether it's softball, you know, my daughter flag football, or just, you know, a school thing where if I need to dip out, I'm able to dip out and show up. And I found that, you know, it's different dynamic. And I was curious to think, is that the same way in your households or?
I just rope my family into every single thing I do. They have no choice.
They don't have a choice but to
No.
spend time.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I'm roping Juliana in.
Right, yes.
Yeah, so she's, I
Tomorrow's
asked,
D-Day.
yeah, tomorrow's D-Day. I have my son, Victoria's teaching me a little TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah. Jonathan, I said to him, I said, could you help me on YouTube? He goes, you're never going to be YouTube famous. This is a waste of our time. I'm like, could you just help me?
Thanks for the honesty.
You know, and this is what we do. And sometimes I'll have my husband come with me places, and this is really, you know, and they're cool with that.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I found
But I
it.
do miss a lot, Joe. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
work. I work all the
So
time.
That's an excellent point, Lori, because a lot of people, and the misconception.
Oh, we make
is
our own
that
hours and
you
we
make
have
your
this
own
messy
hours.
Yeah.
schedule.
But, and to that extent, right, we could pop out, go to a softball game, or do something for the most part. But if we're not available, someone else is.
Yeah.
So we make our own hours to a certain extent. We have that flexibility, and that's part of the reason why I chose this career, because my family is so important to me, and I promised that I would be present, and that is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, and that, and I'm thankful that I'm able to do this.
Sure.
But that is a misconception. We do not have total flexibility because we're only being fed what we're working on. This is how I put food in my family's mouth. I contribute to my household. Lori, you're the same. I want to be present for the most important things, and I'm making a point to do it. My children have adapted to my lifestyle, popping in and out. Sometimes I miss things. Sometimes I have to go. Maybe I'll show up late. Maybe I can't come at all.
Right.
And they've adapted to that lifestyle. My son, Nico, will have a couple of TikToks of him. He wants to be a builder. He's going to sell. He's going to build the houses. I'm going to sell the houses. I hope that comes to light. So I'm excited
You
about
need to
that.
work with the
That's
builder.
how it is.
Yeah, he has keys in his
That's
back
great.
pocket, like me, and he'll be looking around. He carries my cards and hands them out to everyone in his school. I'm like, Nico, keep it up. And I'll put like 5 in his pocket. No, I'm just kidding. But he hands them out. He's like my biggest fan. He calls me Katherine Real Estate. He picks up the phone and talks as if he's on with DiTommaso. He
Look
loves
at that
it.
support she gets. My son says, you're never going to be YouTube famous. I'm not going to help you with your hashtags because they
Oh,
stress
my
me
God.
out.
Funny.
Yeah.
They're stressful. So it's super hard. But they're little, they're 4 and 6, and they're learning to adapt in that respect. So it's nice.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Somebody said to me once that their kids were getting annoyed that they were on the phone and this and that, and I'm like, yeah, my kids definitely don't because they get it.
Yeah.
Tuition,
Yeah.
car payment, right? All these things, and they appreciate it,
Yeah.
and they really, really do. And I always say that I'm so grateful that they all get it. And I know, Frank, you said it to me once. I think we were someplace, and you looked at me, and it was just great. It was just great. And you said, "This is the greatest."
I truly believe this is
in
the
the world.
best business in the world.
He said it. He goes,
Yeah.
"It is the
Look,
best."
Not
the easiest.
I can't say
No.
that it's not easy.
Yeah.
I can't say that. I can't say
Say
that
that
it
it is
is
easy.
easy.
Yeah. It is easy,
This
yeah.
business can be so difficult at times. But going along with what Catherine said, you can make your schedule. See, now, Catherine's boys are still little.
Yeah.
So if they're in Little League or whatever they're doing, and she needs a Saturday afternoon, a few hours to go watch one of their games, or to take them to the zoo or whatever the family, outing is, you can do that. So there are so many advantages to being in this business. While that sounds great, in the back of our minds,
Right.
we know our phone could ring at any time. You could be working on a deal. You're thinking business, But I wanted to answer your question before. I grew up in a very traditional family.
Yeah.
Right? Family values. We used to, dinner was on the table 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, right?
Yes.
My father worked a 9 to 5 job. He was a businessman. He had a restaurant in Staten Island. He did construction work. And I think when it all comes down to it, I think we lead by example. And yes, we adapt as the years go on. Things change.
Yeah.
Hours change. You have to adjust your lifestyle accordingly. But I feel like as long as we're giving that guidance, they see what we do, and they can learn from that.
Yeah.
They'll adjust their lifestyle accordingly. But it's the values that we instill in them.
Of course.
And then whatever it is.
Yeah.
If they see us on the phone, they understand.
Yeah.
He's not just talking to
That's
his
right.
friends having a good time.
Right.
They're
Maybe
not giving
working
me
on a
extra
really
stress
important
that
deal.
I'm on the phone. They get it.
Right.
Get it.
Right.
I agree.
And would I trade it for anything? The way we do our business, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, of
I
course.
love this business, but it does come with the challenges that are involved.
The
Like we were
sacrifice.
saying.
Frank, I have such regret that I didn't do this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have some challenges coming up pretty soon,
Yeah.
right? And supposedly in July.
Yes.
So Here we go once again.
Thank you for
And
everything
thank you,
do for
Joe.
our
you,
show.
Joe.
Thank you for
Appreciate
bringing
it.
us here
This
today.
rocks.
This is
This-
great.
No.
This was
I
our first,
have-
and I appreciate you
I have
guys.
to say,
come back
on board.
I am so
tomorrow.
impressed with this play. This
Yeah.
is fantastic. You did a great
Thanks,
job.
Frank. I appreciate it.
Lots of luck with it. You
Thank you.
bring a lot more people on, and
I appreciate it.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you again, Joe.